everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Yellow Butterfly Podcast. My name is Denisha Smith, and in this episode, I have my good friend, Alina, right? Alina's how I say it. I always think I'm saying it wrong every time.
No, you got it. Okay. I know there's a lot of Elenas or Alanas, so yeah, Alina.
Okay, Alina, yes. You and I have known each other maybe a couple years now. I mean, the first time I moved to Florida, I met you. Who did I meet you through?
I think we were both at the, well, obviously you were there. It was your studio, but I was there. Tara brought me in for the vendor fair that you did.
Okay, Tara, yeah. Okay, I knew Tara was involved. I couldn't remember if how it went around, but yeah. Okay, so, yeah, we've known each other for a few years now. Just kept in touch over the years, and Alina is a yoga instructor, and I really wanted her on this episode just to talk about yoga and the benefits of it. I have some random questions to ask, and then, yes, she doesn't know any of the questions, but then also she's going to possibly demonstrate some of the poses. With everything going on, stress, and mental health is so important, especially right now. So I do a little bit of yoga myself, and there's some poses and stuff that I do on a regular basis. So I feel like it's important that everyone knows at least a little bit of yoga. Even if you're not like a hardcore yoga person. Yeah, as long as you know some of the poses. I have a couple go-tos, like I said, and they help for sure. So, all right, Elena, let's get started.
All right. Thanks for having me on, by the way. This is fun.
No problem. Okay, first question. All right, what was your first yoga class like? I guess first as a student and then as a teacher or instructor.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so my first class as a student, and I'm not going to count like doing yoga programs on TV or anything, because that's actually how I got started. I practiced starting when I was 15 or 16 doing yoga on videos at home, but my first ever class that I went to was one of the most intimidating experiences of my life. I walked in, and there was a gentleman, the teacher, shirtless, long curly hair. He's on this like wall that's like used by gymnasts for like doing stunts on the wall, and he's like stretching, and I'm like, oh god. And there's one other guy there, and I didn't realize that I had walked into like an advanced Ashtanga class where you just kind of do it. Like, there's not much instruction, if any instruction, and there's also a really long chant in the beginning. So, like, they started chanting. I'm like, what did I get myself into? I actually did meet that instructor, like, 10 years later, so that was really funny, because I was able to tell him, like, you really freaked me out, but I still tried to do yoga anyway. But, yeah, I tried other styles, and I found a style that works for me. So I think not everyone realizes there are so many different styles of yoga, taught many different ways. So if you don't vibe with a certain teacher, don't write off yoga. Right. Just maybe write off that teacher or that style for you right now. Yeah,
I think that's the problem, or like a lot of people get the intimidated. But yeah, if you go into like a hot yoga and you're like, oh, okay, I can't breathe up, and like I'm not ready for this yet.
I wouldn't like decide, okay, I want to learn how to play piano, and then like join an advanced piano playing club. Like I would get the basics. Like I might do some private instruction. I might, practice on my own until I felt comfortable. Whatever. It's the same thing. Yoga, running, everything. You have to start
dance.
Absolutely. Can you imagine like going into like an advanced ballet class if you wouldn't literally you wouldn't even know the language.
Right. And then you'd be like, okay, I'm not doing that. I can't dance. It's like, no, it's not that.
So that was my first experience as a student in a class. I stuck it out. I practiced through college. I decided after college to become an instructor at the studio that I practiced. That really was like my mental health savior through college. Yoga for me I do it more for mental health than anything. But yeah, so I did the course, and then I went home for a week, came back, and I got a call from my boss, and she was like, because I also worked for the studio.
Gotcha.
She's like, could you be at class tomorrow? It's $40. It's at 7:30 in the morning, and this is the address. And I'm like, she wants me to pay $40? And like, I thought she was asking. I didn't realize she was asking me to teach it because she needed a sub.
Right.
And she's asking me, I need your ID number, because it was actually at the Eisenhower Executive Building, which is right next door to the White House. So that's where like the White House people work. This was in DC. So we had the contract with a lot of government places to do yoga. And their mission at the studio was to bring yoga to government people to help them be able to make better decisions and, you know, connect to their higher power, whatever that means to them. And so, yeah, my first ever class was actually at the White House.
Oh, wow.
And I had to put my yoga mat through the metal detector, and, like, they did a full background check on me beforehand. And all that
Dang. That's cool. Intimidating, too, right? Like, White House.
But it was, you know, it was just like 4 or 5, like, probably accountants or, you know, like, lots of people who work for the government who just wanted to do yoga before work. So it was fun. It was just in this little carpeted, like, conference building. And I've taught corporate yoga now for a decade.
Nice.
I really love helping people in, you know, where I came from.
Especially in the corporate world, too. It's like, stress. I need to relieve some stress.
Yeah. It improves communication in the workplace. Like, it's amazing, you know. Workplaces who invest in their employees' well-being end up having more profitable companies, actually.
Yes.
Even if they just look at it from a financial standpoint. So.
Right. Well, cool. Okay, next question. Okay, this kind of goes along with it. What's the best type of yoga class for a beginner? I guess that you would recommend.
Okay, so I'm going to give you, like, best case and then maybe most reasonable.
Okay.
So best case for beginners, I would actually consider hiring a private yoga instructor, or seeing if they might be willing to teach a small group, you know, so like maybe you and a couple other people to make it more affordable. But that's a big part of what I do is I teach beginners, because if you go into certain styles like vinyasa, you can actually get injuries from doing repetitive movements. You haven't had someone tell you, like, okay, your hands need to be here, and you need to hold your stomach like this, who's actually looking at your spine and your structure. So best case is actually get some private instruction, like even one class, honestly.
To learn some of the little things or...
And like someone who's used to working one-on-one, who has a really strong knowledge of anatomy, because most yoga instructors, you get anatomy training, but not a whole lot. So it's important to get someone who knows anatomy. And then if you can't afford or don't want to do private instruction, then taking some kind of beginner series, they're out there, or, you know, yoga for beginners, look for hatha or gentle, like those are good code words. Restorative sounds nice, but in restorative, you're going to be doing mostly gentle stretching. You're not going to learn a lot about some of the more common poses. But I do love restorative classes. Like,
what's the one, you just lay on the ground? I can't think of the name. Shavasana, there you go. Just sit there like, oh yeah, this is yoga, guys.
It is. Like, people have this idea that yoga has to be this, like, vigorous gymnast type thing. It absolutely does not. I work with amputees. I work with older people. Like, you can lie down and sit down and do yoga. And actually, I'm able to identify students who have more advanced practices in my classes because they're resting more. They're listening to their body. They're modifying. Yoga's just about, you know, forming union between mind and body and spirit. So that means listening to what your body's telling you, not pushing all the time. Right.
Which some of us, myself included, I've had to balance over the years, definitely learn how to, like, all right, slow down, or if I'm doing a lot one day, the next day, like, listen to my body and just chill. Listen to my mind. If my mind's saying, relax, like, actually relax.
Yeah, most people have to learn how to relax. We don't really teach that very well in our culture.
Right. Okay, next question. All right, well, 3 favorite yoga poses.
Ooh, oh my gosh, that's so hard. Okay, so I'll tell you my favorite that I like to do in my practice, but they're not the 3 that I would recommend for beginners by any means. But most people lose the ability to backbend in their life. So some kind of backbending posture, and I really like wheel. In gymnastics, you might think of it as bridge pose, where you're just doing that big back bend.
Gotcha.
So I had a dance teacher actually tell me that if you do wheel every day, then you'll always be able to do it and you'll have a healthy back your whole life. So I really took that to heart. So that's one of my favorites. I do love
I might need to do that because
Yeah.
I don't know if it's kids or what. I think it's kids. But yeah, like my back, I can feel the part where I'm like, I just stop because I'm like, nope, that hurts. I stretch it and everything, but yeah, I might need to do that.
Because it's a combo of the mobility, but also the strength. And so we don't really have strong backs, most of us, because they're overstretched, because we're always hunched forward, whether we're on our phone, a computer, driving, sitting in a chair. So we're overstretching our backs and we're not engaging our back muscles. And we're also not really like open through our shoulders. And so wheel pose will force you to get real honest and be like, okay, where do I need to open it up and work a little bit more? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my favorite. My second is probably headstand because I thought it would be impossible for me, you know, when I started practicing. And if you learn how to align your body in a straight line, you can do headstand. It's actually not as advanced as a pose as you might think it is.
Okay.
And there's something about taking a class with other people who are in headstand where you're seeing everyone like plugged into the ceiling, like, because your perspective is different. So there's a saying, like, if you want to change your perspective, like, go upside down. So
I like that.
Going upside down, and you're getting lots of fresh blood in your brain, which is super good for your brain, and colors will be brighter, and you'll be a little happier, like high, you know. So you gotta have a strong yoga practice for like at least a year usually before you can do headstand safely. But
so don't just go start doing headstands.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know people, they will like.
They'll go. I was even thinking about like I can do a headstand.
You can also break your neck doing headstands, so like you gotta be careful. And then, gosh, third, honestly, is probably just like seated meditation. So just sitting
there.
And Sukhasana, easy seated pose. And for most people, that's actually going to get uncomfortable in about 5 minutes, like just sitting. But we're supposed to be able to sit, just like we're supposed to be able to squat. Like people would tend to fire, poop, like there's so much that squatting is like. But we've lost our connection to our natural human anatomy. So, like, that's why I love yoga. It gets us back to moving how we should move.
Right.
And then after you do all that yoga, the whole point is to be able to sit and meditate and pray and just connect. Like, that's why we do yoga.
Yeah, I think over maybe, like, the last year, I would say maybe the last year or two, for sure, really got into yoga and, like I said, finding certain poses that I like. But yeah, just being able to sit there and relax and actually relax. It takes a minute for your mind to, but I've also learned, like, if your mind wanders, like, let it wander, but then, like, bring it back.
Yeah, I used to do, I studied at a Shambhala Buddhist center, and I'll never forget one woman in the class was like, I really benefit from a seated meditation practice, but I also benefit from like a thinking practice, like just letting myself sit and think and daydream. Like that's important. So like if you're having trouble meditating, like maybe for 10 minutes, just try allowing your brain to go wherever it wants to. Like explore all possibilities. Like let yourself worry, let yourself whatever, and then like brain dump it out.
Yes.
And then try meditating and add breath work too. That'll help.
Yeah, I used to do that with like journaling or writing. Like I would just write down what was coming to my head, and I'd like be all over the place. But it was nice to just whatever I'm thinking, get it out, and then
brain down. Journaling fits so well with yoga and meditation. I will do that too. My first part of my journal entry will just be like all the bullshit that I've been thinking about. Sorry, I'm not supposed to swear. But then it will get to like the inspired thinking and the more like channeled profound messages, and my handwriting will actually change from like I can see the switch. So
that's cool.
You know,
Cool. All right, this is fun. Okay, couple questions left, and then you can demonstrate. What is the chant at the end of the class? Normally there's some chants at the end of class.
Sure. It depends on what yoga school you're in or what type of yoga you're doing. The one that you hear the most is probably Om.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually people are like, oh, like if you say yoga or whatever, that like that's the first thing.
Yeah. So the idea behind Om, forgive me if I don't hit all the subtleties right, but like, so we usually think of Om as like O-M, but it can also be spelled A-U-M. And you think about your mouth when you make the ah sound, it's ah, and then the U sound is and then the M is So you like rap, you get all of sound in one second. Yeah.
Wait, y'all. I knew it. She's, Mom. I think she's done. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically Om is like, it's everything. It's all encompassing. Some people say it's the sound of the Big Bang, like when the universe was created, that was Om. It's that primordial sound. I've also heard that like Om is like an opening, so you have to be really intentional with what you fill it with. And so I really love to chant. You'll hear it a lot. Om Shanti, 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 which means Om, peace, peace, peace. So you're opening it up, and then you're deciding what you want to fill it with. You know?
Okay.
So, Shanti, peace. There's lots of different ones. Satnam, my essence is my truth, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I've heard the Om one a lot. I always thought at first it was like hum, like I'm just humming. Hum.
There's humming meditation too, like buzzing like a bee. It's actually pretty cool.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that. Okay, what does Namaste mean?
Okay, so Namaste, I can kind of go on a rant here, but I won't. So that's like a very typical like example of cultural appropriation. So when I've actually had students from India take my classes, I noticed that it felt very awkward to them to say Namaste. And I'm like, let me figure out why. So, first of all, we're pronouncing it wrong.
Yes, I was going to say, it's pronounced, yes,
yeah,
I've heard.
It's more like Namaste. And so the nature of bringing the hands together, that means Namaste. Like, you don't have to say it. It's very formal. So I've heard it said that, like, saying Namaste would be like doing this. Like, say you were working out with a trainer, and then at the end of your workout, you were like, hello. Like, it would be really weird.
Right.
But we've just adopted Namaste in the West as something that means basically like, I honor the light in you as the same light in me. Which it kind of does. Like, it means that it basically is acknowledging that we're both universal and divine in nature. But it's not really traditionally Indian, but we kind of use it basically as a way to be like, thanks for being here.
Okay.
So I still say it at the end of my classes because it's so used that it would be awkward not to.
Yeah.
So I'll do a little namaste at the end, and I think it lets people in this country kind of feel like they're part of something bigger, that they're connecting to something really truthful. But yeah, I just urge you to look up the roots of namaste. Yeah, okay. It's like not really, you know, we kind of took that from them, and in a way that's not the most respectful.
Always taking stuff, Merk.
No, we are. Like, so, like, I feel like it's important to call stuff out. Like, something I've learned lately is that it's really, like, well, maybe a few years ago now, like, disrespectful to say that's my spirit animal, like, if you're not indigenous. And it's used all the time. And so, like, now I just try to call it out to people, not to try to make them feel bad, but just like, hey, are you part of anything that really does have spirit animals? And if you're not, look at that, you know? Yeah.
No, I understand. I'm Native American, and there's some things I'd be like,
I bet.
Okay.
Stuff like burning sage, and you know, people still look at that. So, like,
and
I just urge
certain
people,
sage, like, you gotta make sure you get it from the right places.
So it's look at Namaste, but essentially people mean it to be like, I bow to you, I honor you.
Gotcha.
We're the same.
Okay. Last two questions. Okay, this is a good one. What does yoga help? How does yoga help with stress and mental health?
So it's multifaceted. So like the easiest example, I'm going to address it from a mind and a body and a spirit level. The body being the most base level, it's going to help you stretch and release toxins and just sweat it out. We feel good when we sweat. So like for the fact that it's physical exercise alone, you're going to feel better. If you're stressed out, move. Like, whether you like yoga, dancing, running, move. You will feel better. So, like, that reason alone, it's going to help release a lot of chronic tightness patterns that we hold in our body. So that'll help for sure. Mentally, anything that you do that connects you to breathing is going to help you switch out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. So if you're focusing on the breathing, which in my style of yoga that I love, vinyasa, every movement is connected with the breath. And so that's going to allow me to release stress. A lot of times in yoga, you're going to be bad at it at first, so you're going to have to be thinking about all the steps. Like, where does my foot go? And what's that Sanskrit word again? And that's going to take you out of your to-do list and all the stuff you worry about all the time and just let you live in the present moment. So that's going to help you fight stress. And then I believe that yoga is a way to connect to your higher power, whatever that is for you, because when you clear your body, when you take time to just be still and you breathe, you might start hearing some divine inspiration, right? Maybe it's just your body talking to you. Maybe it's something bigger. But it allows you to connect to that. And so if you're stressed out, like, surrender it to something greater. You know? And I find yoga is a really powerful way for non-religious people to connect to something bigger than themselves. We have to. No matter where we come from, even if we're an atheist, you need to connect to something bigger than your problems and your ego, because that's what it is. Like, I don't know, like I saw someone today being really upset that their sheets didn't fit their mattress on Facebook, and I'm like, oh my God, like, there are lots of people that don't have a mattress, let alone sheets. So I feel like yoga just kind of helps you get out of that ego-centric place and into something greater.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, for myself, the yoga and doing yoga and having some kind of practice at that. I think I did like I would do like 30 days, like every day, you know, like I challenge myself. Even I don't do it every day now, but I would go a month and do yoga every morning, or whatever it is. And when I would do that, I'd notice you're just more present, and you're more, and I like doing it in the mornings just to get the day started. But you're more present and you're more like aware of things that are, is that really a big deal? You know, like my sheets don't fit.
You're able to catch yourself better. You know, like you'll catch yourself physically, like, oh, I'm slumping, I should stand up straight. And then you'll catch yourself mentally and be like, oh, I don't need to go down that crazy train right now. I started, the thing that shifted for me a lot was paying attention to like what I was watching, paying attention like what I was giving my energy to, you know, and certain people, and I'm like, and then just acknowledging that I have the power to choose what I want. That's what it is. Like yoga, it does connect you to your power. Like, and it's cool because it does connect you to your power physically. Like you'll see yourself having progress faster than maybe you should, and so that inspires you to keep going and develop discipline. I love that you did that every 30 days because you showed yourself that you could, that you're powerful, that we can do anything we put our minds to. But then, it shows you have the power to pay attention to something different. That's all it is. Like, it's like kids, right? Like when little kids get really mad about something, you can usually, when they're young enough, just kind of pick them up and move them somewhere else and be like, look, dinosaurs, or whatever. You know? So we can do that with ourselves. We have the power to be happier at any moment. You know, that's always my prayer for my students at the end of class. Like, I pray that you're able to connect to this feeling anytime you want to.
Yeah, and then having that, if you do just 30 days, all right, I'm going to do yoga for 30 days, you know, whatever. But you get that routine, and then those habits kind of stay with you. So even if you don't do it every day after those 30 days, if you find yourself in a stressful situation, you'll be like, okay, let's just breathe and, you know, shake it up. Swiss. Or I'm like, okay, I know these stretches work for me. Let me just do a couple of these. My mom had a panic disorder. So I remember when I was younger, when she would have a panic attack and stuff, which is weird how all the stuff you learn over the years, like how it comes full circle. Anyway, but she would be like, I'm having a panic attack and, you know, it's coming on. And she like, just talk to me about something else. Talk to me about whatever, because it would help her get her mind off of, I'm freaking out. Or when she was in the doctors are like, all right, just breathe. You need to breathe. So then she would like, I can't breathe, you know, like she feels like she can't, which I totally get it. But they're just trying to, I need you to breathe. I need you to slow down your heart rate. Like, slow down. So the breathing, how important that is.
It's everything. It really is. I mean, so the yogis would say, the ancient yogis, they didn't say you're born with a set number of years. But they did say you're born with a set number of breaths. So you can choose if you want to breathe really quickly and never think about it and just rapid little quick breaths, or if you can slow it down. Doesn't that make sense? Right? Like you're born with a certain number of breaths, and it's up to you if you want to take those slow. How
you want to use how many breaths you want? Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, so I've always resonated with that idea, you know, and just use that as a reminder. Anytime my life sucks, I'm like, am I breathing? Probably not. You know, and if I can take 10 minutes to, you know, just, and if you're confused, like what kind of breath work should I do if you're watching this, literally just sit and breathe slowly and just feel if you're actually using your lungs to their fullest capacity or not. And if you're not, because no one ever is, how can you deepen that, slow it down? Like just become so obsessed with observing your breath. That's all you have to do. And there's other breathing techniques. There's hundreds or thousands. But like that alone, lengthening and deepening your breath can help people with severe depression and anxiety, sleep issues, like blood pressure issues, like everything is just helped by being able to breathe better.
Right. No, it's I'm telling you, I've heard that so many times. I need you to my mom, I need you to breathe. I need you to slow down.
You've been a breathing coach since you were a kid. That's really cool.
Didn't even realize. Or I definitely have mastered the distraction, I guess, like helping somebody, like if they're freaking out or panicking, and like, all right, let's talk about this. Or I kind of know what to talk about to get their minds off of. I did it with my daughter. She was crying about whatever, and I switched this topic. I'm like, you didn't even ask me how my day was. Like, you didn't ask me how my day was, and she's like it got her mind like, what? And it's like, I had to do this, and I was just telling her all this stuff, and slowly she like it took it all off of her, and she started chilling out and asking me about my day, and like.
Because like literally in your brain we have loops, like they physically exist, and we'll get stuck, you know. And one of my meditation buddies compared it to having a DVD player in her head, and she could just never press the eject button. It just kept going and going. Yeah. And it literally happens that way. And so if we can like heal our brains, because that's another thing, like yoga is so profound for healing the brain and connecting to the fact that like that kind of tissue is not just in your brain, it goes throughout your body. And so you can connect to the intelligence of your nervous system. And like, we don't think about that. Like, we don't think about, man, I could actually calm my stomach with my mind. Yeah. But you can. Yeah. You can. So, like, yoga, I call it yogi superpowers. Like, doing yoga often will give you things that you never thought you could do before.
And just like, have those tools with you.
Yeah.
So whenever
you need to. And really practical things. Like, I have this book, Meditations on the Mat or Morning on the Mat, like a daily yoga reading. And the author's wife was terrified when people were like, here, catch, and would throw her keys, because for whatever, she was really bad at catching. So it like actually caused her a lot of anxiety. Yeah. Anytime someone did that. Yeah. And she would always drop it, and it was embarrassing, you know, and you never know what people are going through, you know? Yeah. And yoga, now she can catch keys. Like, oh, wow. And I will brag about myself a little bit. Do it. My reflexes are amazing. And, like, I know this because I have 2 little boys. And stuff is being thrown and dropped all the time. And I do just, like, and I'm not an athletic person. I didn't really play sports. Right. Like, I played volleyball, but that was it. And I danced, but I considered myself a clumsy person. And, yeah, yoga, I'm just like, I got it. And Michael was like, babe. And I'm like, that's yoga's superpower.
I mean, I can't like reflexes. Okay, last question, and then I'll have you do just a couple poses before time's up. Are all yoga instructors vegan?
No, I'm not vegan. There you go, even if they all are, except for me. Okay, so a lot of yoga practitioners vegetarian because one of the yogic concepts from the sutras is ahimsa, which means non-harming. So that means, like, don't put yourself in a yoga pose that's going to hurt yourself. Some people do translate that as, like, no harming, don't eat animals. So I would just, you know, unfortunately, all of our actions have consequences. And even if you're vegan, like, you're eating wheat products, like mice are killed in the tilling, you know, we are part of a circle of life. And so I believe we have to do our best interpretation of that practice of non-harming. So for me, I was vegan for years. I never, ever wanted to eat animals again. I was disgusted by that concept, but my body started breaking down because I did need certain nutrients that are only found in really high quality animal foods. And so I did have to start eating animal foods again, but I learned about things like grass-fed and local and like hunting and like, you know, things that made me feel better and more conscious of my choices than like going to McDonald's, because that's what I was for. Right. So if ahimsa to you translates as veganism and your body is able to thrive on it, awesome. Right. Great. I would love to not have to eat animals. Right. But if you eat meat and you do yoga, like, that's okay.
Right. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah, like, we're not a stereotype. Like, there are yogis of all types of people. Anybody can practice yoga. Don't think that because you're not like a skinny mini, like whatever soccer mom that you can't do yoga. That's ridiculous. Everybody can do yoga.
If you can't get your leg way up here, like, don't do yoga.
I know. I can't put my foot behind my head. It's really flexible, but my hips just don't turn out that much, and I shouldn't force them to. Right. Because else I wouldn't be practicing non-hips, you know.
Right. Right. Okay, cool. Well, that was all the questions. So if you can demonstrate quickly a couple poses, that'd be great.
Sure. Okay. So the first pose I'm going to demonstrate is one of my favorites because it's so good for releasing stress like we talked about. And it's the pose that you go into if you are taking a yoga class and it's a little too hard for you or you need a break. Okay. So this is called child's pose.
Oh, I love child's pose. Okay.
Everybody loves child's pose.
It's one of my favorites.
I have knee issues, and I'll show you how to modify for that. So you basically just come to your knees, and I like to bring my knees a little apart and my toes closer together. And then you're going to rest your forehead on the ground or your hands. So I'll show you, like, I'll stack my fists like this and just relax my hands, my head, and just do a little wiggle like that side to side. So that's a good place to start, and then eventually you can reach your hands forward and take, you know, just your head down or a little stretch to one side and stretch to the other side.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like doing that one for sure.
Yeah.
One way.
So child's pose is awesome. A little cat and cow is really nice for stretching the back too. So you just go on the hands and knees, and then for cow pose you drop your belly, you move your heart open, big breath in, and then cat pose you exhale and you round your back. And you just move with the breath. So it's inhale and exhale.
Mom?
Yeah.
Hold on.
They're kicking like running ball.
Okay.
I love that your kids are part of it.
We got a cat, and now it's all about cats. So.
Alright, the last one I'll show you is ragdoll pose. So a lot of people say, okay, so like my number one excuse for people not doing yoga, people will say, I can't touch my toes.
Right.
Like, we won't let you in or something.
Right.
So most people can't touch their toes. So do ragdoll instead. You have your feet like this wide apart. And you actually bend your knees like a lot. And just let your belly rest on your thighs. And then you just hang out. So you can move side to side. Usually people have their toes too turned out. You want your feet to be parallel most of the time in yoga.
I'm saying that one gets like the blood rushing to the head and stuff, right?
Yeah. This is a curtain, just like headstand. Yeah. So those three.
Cool. Yes, I love those poses for sure. And child's pose is probably my favorite. And then there's one, I have no room to do it. I'm not gonna try it. But like you use your elbows like to push out. You're kind of like in a squat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Malasana. Yeah, yogi squat.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that one is awesome to do because that's the natural human movement I was talking about that most people can't do.
Yeah.
So like you can do a little bit of this to kind of warm up.
Yeah.
Like let it be more comfortable, but over time, sitting just like this.
Yeah, that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We should all be able to sit like this for hours.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Because we would be tending a fire, and we wouldn't have had chairs. You would want your butt to be a little lifted.
Right.
That's a very natural human movement that most people can't do.
Yeah.
And they've actually done studies that link your life expectancy to being able to stand up from sitting without your hands, which involves going through squat.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, a physical therapist can look at you and make a pretty accurate estimate of how long you will live based on how you get off the floor. That's crazy.
Oh my god. Squat.
Right. So we need to squat.
Right.
Unless it hurts your knees, and then you need to work with an instructor to help you modify.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the one thing I wanted to get out of this episode is just for people that maybe want to try yoga, like, it can be intimidating, but, like, try different styles of yoga. Or, like you suggested, maybe get a private instructor or do a small group first. There's a local community center or anything. Or if you want to give them your, I know you have some classes and stuff.
So I have a page, Alina Hall Yoga, on Facebook that you can like, and I do content on there, free videos and stuff like that. We have a group too called Yoga for Beginners. So if you look up Yoga for Beginners, we've got like 15,000 members or something like that right now. Nice. So the big one, that's the one. So those two resources are going to be really useful. But yeah, yoga should never hurt. And if it's uncomfortable, like, ask yourself, does it hurt me, or is it uncomfortable? Because we actually do want to get uncomfortable, because that's where you grow. But if it's hurting you, you have to modify and adjust. Somehow, I love blocks. Like, yoga blocks can make certain yoga postures way more accessible and help you if you have wrist pain, back pain, knee pain, a strap. So, like, people say, what kind of yoga mat should I get? I'm like, what kind of props are you going to get? Because that's going to help your practice. I don't care what kind of mat you have, really. You can do yoga anywhere. But, yeah, like, if you find a teacher who is working with blocks and straps and bolsters, you know you found a good teacher. Because they'd rather yoga be more accessible than, like, pretty.
Right. So. And if you don't have them, I mean, I've personally used, I took like a class, it was just like an online class, and I was like, oh, let me try this. It was like a YouTube thing. And she brought out some blocks. I'm like, well, I don't have that. So I just took like some pillows or like something to resemble the height that they needed. Yeah.
Totally. So. You can get creative. I teach a class Tuesday mornings, and I often will teach it outside. And I'm kind of known for grabbing the cushion off of like the outdoor furniture. Because it makes like the perfect bolster.
Yeah. And
everyone has a couch cushion at home for the most part. So... yeah, you can absolutely, like, if you can't touch your toes and your hips are tight, like, try doing seated yoga pose sitting on the edge of a couch cushion. It'll tilt your pelvis just a little bit and help you get into those postures way easier.
Right.
And so it's always better to have a straight spine. Like, that's key, you know? I know. And we never do it. And then we're like, it's that constant mindfulness of just being like, oops, posture sucks.
Right. Right. So whoever's watching this and you've wanted to try yoga and you're like, I don't know why I don't have this, just try and don't, if you don't get it right the first time, try again. Like she said, take different classes. I think it's just so important for your mental health, especially right now, just to find different tools and things to woosah.
Yeah, and it really is accessible to you no matter what religion or background you have. Yoga is not a religious practice. It has roots, of course, in India and Hinduism, but I've heard a few people say that like yoga is devil worship or demon worship, or you're calling out the names of different gods. If you want to call it stretching, I'd rather you do stretching and mindful breathing than say I'm never going to do yoga, because there's so many health benefits that will connect you to your higher power in yoga. That always makes me so sad when people say, oh, my pastor told me I can't do yoga. Then do a Christian yoga class. They exist. Like,
or just don't say whatever, like if there's somebody say, like, just stretch.
Right, if you don't want to see a chant, don't say it.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to kick you out. Like, all are welcome at yoga studios.
Yes, and it's all about health, man. Mental and physical health. So, all right, well, that's the episode. I thank you so much. This was fun. I'm glad you were able to. Yeah. Oh no, poor connection. So I'm gonna go ahead and. Oh, you're still there. Good. I'm gonna end the episode. So thank you guys for watching this. Again, thank you, Alina, for showing us some poses and enlightening us in some yoga ins and outs, especially for beginners. But yes, until next time, you guys, bye.